after talking to Bill many, many times, this was my attempt at explaining his platform, and then he said I got it, reasonably accurately. So, and this is where the system prompt comes in. So you've got, and you're going to see this in a minute. You've got a chat-like experience on the front end of the website. A user asks a question. The first thing that happens after you ask that question, and even ChatGPT does this when you're using it on your phone, is it first adds additional instructions that you don't see. And that's the system prompt. So there are details that you, with our help or somebody else's, can insert into the prompt after the question gets asked. So you might be asking about a particular product, and then the system prompt adds, and oh, by the way, don't you dare recommend something from one of my competitors. You always have to provide two options. It has to be technically accurate because I'm selling a technical product, and that adds relevance and structure to the value that you're ultimately going to get from the answer. That is what gets passed to quote unquote the reasoning engine, which is essentially the proprietary bits, right? So then that goes into software that goes, okay, how am I going to answer this question? And there's an up and down arrow in the middle of the slide that points to integrations. So an integration in that case can be your own vector database, your own RAG data repository of your own content that nobody else can see. We've plugged that in. It could be ChatGPT. It could be some other automation, another agent, another activation that goes, oh, you're asking about a product. I have a script over here that's purpose-built for doing product comparison and selection. So you asked a question about that. I know I can use that integration to solve this problem. So the reasoning engine is doing the heavy lifting of determining, it's AI, going, okay, what did you ask me? What have I been told? How should I treat it? Figuring out which integration to use in order to best answer that question for you, and then presenting that back to the user, but first going through a translation to make sure that it's formatted and output properly so that it matches your visual identity, your brand voice, your user experience. So the output template is where we add a little bit more instruction. There's actually maybe some HTML or some CSS involved there to make sure that the way that the information is presented is consistent with the user experience that we want to deliver. That ultimately creates the answer and allows you to continue the conversation. Would you refine any of that, Bill?
I think that's great. I would just say one extra thing about that reasoning engine. So that reasoning engine, when it needs to go to RAG to get an answer, that's the most common thing it's going to do. But the second thing that it needs to do is it needs to say, is there any other tools or integrations that I should be using? So out of the box, things like email, Google's Maps, Google Places, things like that. But then this is where this new MCP protocol, all of a sudden, literally in months, you're going to be able to connect to thousands of other integrations that make your virtual assistant way, way more intelligent because it can get answers and it can push data in.